Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about a new Netflix release, The Christmas Chronicles 2. Before we begin, let me know in the comments if you were looking forward to this or what your thoughts were if you've seen it already, and make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews. It helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. But now, let's jump right into it. This once again stars Darby Camp as Kate, now a cynical teenager when her mom starts dating a new man. She tries to run away only to be followed by the new boyfriend's son, played by Jahzir Bruno, and the two are mysteriously transported to the North Pole, when they're soon rescued by Santa and Mrs. Claus, played by Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. However, when a mischievous elf, played by Julian Dennison, wreaks havoc in the North Pole, their help is needed to not just stop him, but to once again save Christmas. This time around, Chris Columbus, who produced the first film, is now in the director's chair, and he also had a hand in co-writing the screenplay. And this brings back all the main cast from the first film, though in slightly differing roles. Whereas in the first film, Teddy, played by Judah Lewis, was the more cynical one, while Kate was the more optimistic one, this time the roles are reversed, and Teddy's role on top of that is relatively minor here, and their mom's role is even smaller than last time. Though Goldie Hawn, who had a cameo in the last film, has a much more prominent role here, alongside Kurt Russell, whose novelty casting played a big part in the first film's success. This switches the action from Chicago to the North Pole itself, and I like that they expanded upon the film's universe. We get a literal tour of Santa's village, which is actually pretty massive, alongside some other areas around the world that play a part in this franchise's mythology. And once again, Kurt Russell, who is by far the first movie's best part, is also the best part about this movie. Though this time around, the film plays up a different aspect of the character. He's less bitter and cranky than he was in the first film, and instead they play a little bit into the fact that Kurt Russell is a big action star, with at times Santa turning more into this daredevil-like character. Like, when we first see him, he's on his sleigh, and his reindeer are chasing down a mountain lion that's near the village, who he regularly has to shoo away. And throughout the film, through his no-holds-barred approach, and some things said by Mrs. Claus, we get a sense that he somewhat enjoys going on wild, somewhat dangerous adventures. Once again, the writing of the role puts a lot of creativity into the fact that it's Kurt Russell as this unorthodox version of the character, and he's clearly having a lot of fun with the role. That being said, unlike the last movie, it isn't enough this time around to save the film. While there are some good ideas in here, this is unfortunately a fairly underwhelming sequel, which lacks a lot of the heart that made the first movie, as flawed as that was, a pretty decent watch. It certainly tries to lean into the first film's themes again about the importance of family. A lot of this is centered around how Kate's angry that her mom's now dating someone new and she feels her mom's gonna forget about her dad. But this is a very tired trope to begin with, and it's something that we've seen so many times before. It does literally nothing new as far as this type of story goes. I mean, the first movie was fairly predictable, but this one is even more so. And while I like that they expanded upon this world's mythology, unfortunately with that comes a lot of exposition. And I mean a lot of exposition. About half of this movie, if not more, is Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn explaining something to someone, or a character repeating information that we've already seen. The most egregious example is when Mrs. Claus sits down with the two kids and reads them a series of books called The Christmas Chronicles, where you'll hear her narration over Santa's entire history, along with the history of this troublemaking elf named Belsnickel. And it goes on for quite some time, especially as she explains every little detail to us, which unfortunately is the main extent of Goldie Hawn's role. And then when something happens here, say for example if Belsnickel causes trouble in the village and a character sees this, you'll then get a whole scene afterwards of them explaining what we just saw to another character. And this happens not once, but constantly throughout the movie. While I felt the first movie went on for a little too long in some areas, this time around it feels extremely dragged out. It feels somewhat unfocused, especially as it tries mashing a number of things together at once. Between a family message, a threatening antagonist, a deep fantasy mythology, and at one point, time travel, which is something I don't recall ever being a part of the Santa lore. Not that that's bad on its own, it's just we get introduced to that halfway through the movie, when there are already so many other things going on. And because it tries doing so much at once, it loses sight at times of the gravity of the situation. Like there's one point where Belsnickel isn't seen for such a long stretch of time that I almost forgot about him for a moment. And to be honest, he isn't exactly the greatest character to begin with. Julian Dennison is fine, and while this may not be something younger audiences will realize, his character is essentially a toned down version of his character from Deadpool 2. I won't go into too much detail since this film gives us a lot of exposition about him, but like Deadpool 2, he's once again a villain who was once a good person and is simply someone who lost their way, which again is something of a tired trope in and of itself. Though this time his main goal, as menacing as he's supposed to be, is to just create a new village so that he can put Santa out of business. He does some pretty terrible things to achieve this, don't get me wrong, but it's just I found the end goal somewhat funny when I thought about it, given how serious everyone is about the whole thing. And I think that's part of why this movie doesn't work as well as the first film. While there were many parts of the first movie that play like a sentimental Hallmark movie, it also did try to be funny and optimistic at its core. This takes itself even more seriously than the first film did, focusing more on explaining explaining so many things to us and everything feeling super dramatic. And I get that you want to increase the stakes of a sequel so that it's just not a total rehash of the original. To be clear, I'm not asking for this to just be a repeat of the first movie, but it's just that the message of these films is about spreading joy and cheer, and it seemed as if this film lost sight of that at times when it constantly took itself so seriously. Unfortunately, this wasn't all that great. There's still a message about family and spreading cheer, but it gets lost underneath this film trying to do so many things at once. It takes itself way too seriously, tries to incorporate all these different elements that didn't coherently mix well together, and it goes on for too long. The cast is good, with Kurt Russell once again being the big standout as Santa, but this time around, it's not enough to save this. The Christmas Chronicles 2 gets a 5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see the Christmas Chronicles 2, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like it more than the first movie, less than the first movie, and what's your favorite film with Kurt Russell? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.